Hello everyone, I'm Camille Hafner and welcome. So, today we'll learn how to rig a leg in Houdini. Whatever you're gonna learn in this whole course for rigging a leg, basically you can apply it to anywhere. You can rig the arm, you can rig the fingers, you can basically even rig the spine, etc. So the legs contains lots of different elements like FK, IK, and it has this reverse foot. So we will learn how to rig all of those little nuances and how to create the controls, how to create the reverse foot, and all of that will actually leave you with tool set and skills to rig your whole character. And I think the leg is a great example to basically start with. So let me give you a quick overview of the skeleton which we're gonna create for the leg, okay? Probably some of you already done some rigging, so the course is for people from beginning to intermediate in terms of rigging, and I'm pretty sure you can always learn something new here, like some tricks and etc. If you're super advanced, you will still find lots of cool information here, and we will try to use the vanilla KineFX as much as we can, but also I will show you how to use some KineFX tools, which is basically free GitHub repository with lots of great HDAs which will help you speed up the rigging process, and I recommend you to look over them. And if you bought that course, you can actually get the package of those HDAs needed for this course. Let me show you how the skeleton for the leg will look like. Okay, so this is how the skeleton for our leg will kind of look like. Okay, so I'm gonna describe you now how the whole setup for the reverse foot will work. So we have an upper leg, lower leg, which was the knee, the ankle, the toe, and the toe and GNT. So basically the pivot point for every joint is like where the joint starts. So every joint has a beginning and an end. But the end in the same time is actually beginning of a new joint. So joint by itself is just a transform, right? And the arrow which is forming is just pointing to the next one. It's an important thing to remember. The joint by itself is not that thing in the middle. It's not that arrow. It's basically where it starts. The whole basically transform here. Cool. So then when we're gonna create a skeleton and orient it properly, which I'll talk a little bit later, we're gonna create IK solvers. So we're gonna create 3 IK solvers. One for the whole leg, it will be called L leg IK. One for the toe, yes, exactly, it's gonna be IK solver just for one joint, and the one for a tip. The L toe IK and the L tip IK, those two IKs I use just for the reverse foot rigging. In order to create reverse foot rig, we need to create a controls. Controls in Houdini KineFX is basically transforms. It's the same it's a skeleton which just serves as a controls. So we're gonna create a separate hierarchy which is gonna be in the same spot here, whereas our foot. But in this example picture, I just lowered a little bit and I just shift the joint so you can see the hierarchy. So we're gonna have a heel IK control. That control will control the whole foot. Then we have a L toe tip, which is gonna be starting here and going to here. And then we're gonna have a ball joint, which is basically kind of reverse ankle joint. Kind of, because it starts at the L toe GNT. And now, after creating that skeleton, the targets for those IK. So basically, one thing about the IK, in order to have IK working, you need to have a joint or joints which will be driven by the IK, obviously, and you need to have a target at which the solving will happen. And in our case, the target will be the controls joints. So we can tell basically the targets will be kind of parented under the controls. So you will see how that works in a minute, okay? The last thing which we will do, I just want to bring up here, is the orientations of our skeleton. We're gonna use the x-axis as a leading axis for our skeleton, and the y-axis as an up axis. So if that's a leg, the y will be pointing like forward, right? And the main rotations of all our joint will happen around the z-axis. So when you're bending a knee, the rotation will happen around the z. The same analogy, if you're rigging an arm, when you're bending around the elbow, you bend it around the z-axis. And when you have a spine, the main, bending action of the spine will happen around the z-axis. Cool? The reason why it's like this is because we're using XYZ rotation order, and the Z is our leading axis for rotation in the gimbal mode, and the X will serve as a twist. Cool. I think this is enough about a quick introduction what we will do, and let's get to Houdini. Let's start doing some work. So the first thing first, we need obviously a model, okay? So let's create a geometry here, and that's gonna be our model. Cool. And I think we would choose for this one, let's choose a Tommy maybe. Tommy looks cool. Yeah, we have a Tommy character. So this is our test Tommy character, and you should definitely have it in your Houdini. We can turn up the clothing and the textures just for that. Alright, that looks fantastic. And let's do here a little bit of a cleanup. Let's create a null. Let's just give it a green color. This is as an output. And let's call it a model out. So that's cool. Fantastic. So this is our model. And now let's create a rig setup. So first we create a geometry. And this is going to be our rig. Here we'll have all our rigging subs, skeletons, rig poses, and etc., rig volts, etc. So this is going to be our setup, right? Cool. Now you select your rig and you enclose it in a sub network. The reason why, because it's at the end we'll create the HDA of our whole rig, containing controls and everything else. That will actually let us to distribute our rig to animators and whoever needs it. So this is an object level here still. We're gonna have our controls, object level controls here, but for most of the time we'll be working now in the rig. Cool. So let's dive into rig. For some people, when you turn up to Houdini, sometimes you can see your model kind of still visible here. It's because you just have you don't have a hide other objects, and I like to work like hide other objects. I only see that where I am, in the network. Cool. So the first what we need to do, because our network is empty now, we need to bring a model. Cool. So let's bring it with object merge. Object merge. Cool. And let's look for the model which we created. So that's model out, the relative path, and we can just call it model. Cool. And let's change the color to the yellow and change the shape a little bit. So generally speaking, it's good to have some sort of consistency in your networks wherever you work in. Sometimes your studio can some convention how the things should be named and color and shaped. For these tutorials I use the same convention. So basically whatever is coming in some data to your rigs, I always use a yellow color, and the things which are data is coming in, I usually trying to use that arrow pointing down as the shape of your node. And if you press the Z key, you can basically choose the shape which you want to choose. Cool. So here's our model, and as I say, in this tutorial we'll rig only the leg, but I will also show you, we'll be creating a skeleton, how to create a quick skeleton for a spine, root, a hip joint, and a whole leg. Okay.